Hi, this is Peter from the Movable Chef. Today I'm making a number of different meze type spreads and dips, and the second one I'm making is a hummus, which has risen to all new popularity recently. You can make hummus from either canned garbanzo beans or chickpeas or from dried. Today I'm using dried beans, although there's not necessarily a particular reason to. And I'd like to have this dip finished today, so I'm going to speed soak these beans. You could certainly soak them overnight and leave them in water for 8 or 10 hours and then cook them. Or you can also speed soak them, which is what I usually end up doing because I usually don't plan that far ahead to cook beans. So these are just dried chickpeas or garbanzo beans. Both names are appropriate. And this is 1 pound. 1 pound of chickpeas is just over 2 cups. So we're going to pour these into just any pot will do. I'm using a French oven here, but because I usually do for cooking beans, but it doesn't have to be. We then add 8 to 10 cups of water. A little extra is okay because we'll be draining them anyway and reserving just a little bit of that cooking water. But don't salt them, don't season them at this point. We're just going to bring this to a high boil over high heat. Boil them for 2 minutes. When they're finished boiling, we're going to for 2 minutes, we're going to shut off the heat, put a lid on, and move them off the burner. And then let them sit for about 1 hour. That will give the beans time to absorb water and soak up and plump up to their regular size. If you don't do this, you really can't effectively cook beans. It's a mandatory step. So this is the speed soaking procedure. We'll come back and after these have sat for an hour and try this again. All right, so these have been at a full boil for a couple of minutes. I'm going to turn the gas off, place the lid on the pot, and just move it off the burner. Nothing else really needs to be done for about an hour for these, and then we'll come back and actually start cooking the beans, which is the next part of the process.
So somehow I managed to unplug my microphone during this segment when I'm very energetically and sort of passionately describing the cooking of the chickpeas. I can save us both a lot of time here. You cook the chickpeas. You bring them to a boil, reduce to a simmer, let them cook for about 2 hours until they are very tender. I will now return us to the portion of the show where I actually remembered to plug my microphone in.
So our chickpeas look like they're about done. The way you can tell is you can taste them, of course, and make sure there's no crunch to them. The skin should slip off easily because we're going to do something about that. So the skin should come off easily and leave the chickpea. And they should be easily mashable. If you were going to make hummus with a potato masher or fork, you should be able to just mash these and get a paste out of them. So that's the kind of doneness we're looking for. So they're about that stage. What we're going to do now is let them cool down quite a bit. We want them to cool down until the whole pot of chickpeas can be handled like I'm doing right now, but with all of them. And because then there's a secret to getting your hummus to be really smooth and not have that grainy texture that homemade hummus often has, but rather that perfectly smooth, velvet-like consistency that you expect from hummus or that you like from hummus. So we're going to let these chickpeas cool down for probably 45 minutes or so, and we'll come back and do the next step. All right, well, the chickpeas have cooled enough that I can handle them, and this is the next stage of making that really smooth, delicious hummus, which is actually peeling the chickpeas. They have a tough skin on them, and you can squeeze it, and the chickpea comes out and goes in one bowl, and the skin goes in the other. You absolutely do not have to do this. It will make a perfectly good hummus if you skip this step. And certainly if you're using canned garbanzos, you really can't do this. But if you're doing garbanzos from dry, you have the opportunity to skin them, and it does make a huge difference in the consistency of your finished hummus. So it will probably take me about 10 or 15 minutes to skin these garbanzo beans. It seems like a big chore, but it actually goes reasonably quickly. If you cook them a long time, the skins will start to shed on their own. Sometimes you can just stir them really hard and remove about half the skins. And this is the process. The other thing you could do, if you have one, is you could use a food mill. And the food mill will press the garbanzo beans through the food mill, and leave the skins in the food mill itself. But if you don't have one and you still want the really smooth hummus, this is the process. So I'll sit here and skin some garbanzo beans, and I will be back in a few minutes. We finished peeling the chickpeas or running them through a food mill, whichever you wanted to do. And now it's time to finish off that hummus. So I've got 4 cloves of garlic. I add those to the food processor, or you could add them to a blender. I didn't cook these chickpeas with salt, so they're going to need a decent amount. So I'm going to go ahead and put in 2 teaspoons now to help grind up the garlic, and then I will balance the flavors a little bit later on after I taste it. About a teaspoon and a half of black pepper, and I'm going to start off with about half a cup of olive oil, and I'll add more later as needed. And then finally, about half a cup of tahini, which is a sesame seed paste, kind of like peanut butter. I really recommend going to Mideastern markets or grocery stores to get things like tahini and pomegranate molasses and dried mint and a lot of the very distinctive Middle Eastern flavors. You can find it at regular stores, you'll just pay a lot more for it. Cap this off and pulse it until the garlic is all ground up. Now I'll add in the chickpeas. You can see that the food mill already mashed these pretty well because they're so soft. That's really what you want. And the juice of about a lemon and a half. And finally, about a teaspoon or so of cumin. And let's go ahead and process this, and then we'll test the flavor balance. So, first spoon, and that's pretty good. Need a little bit of lemon juice. And a little bit more olive oil and a little bit more salt. I'll have a standard set of ingredients on the website, but you really have to balance this as you make it, because it's going to differ greatly between canned beans, which already have some sodium, between dried beans, where the beans came from, as to what you're going to need to really get those flavors to work. And let's see how this is. It's perfect. It's silky smooth. It's a great flavor to it, and it's a really fantastic dip. So I'm going to plate this up, and we're done with our hummus recipe. All right, here's our finished hummus. It's very common to top it off with a bit of extra olive oil across the top, or if you have pomegranate molasses or fresh pomegranate seeds, pine nuts, a lot of different things that you can top off freshly made hummus with, but we're just going to use a little olive oil, a little bit of parsley, and there you have it. The recipe and all of the ingredients are listed at themovable chef.com. This is Peter. Thank you very much.